what you could actually call the surveillance industry, or well, companies that are providing services that are in the border between law enforcement and private companies. So, no, I can't really answer that question, no.
Give a comment on that. Well, interestingly, it is all this surveillance laws are always brought on the road by well, coalitions of social democrats and Christian Democrats. Maybe you all voted for the wrong parties, I don't know.
I have a question. It seems to me that all this harmonizing of European law is always this opportunity for these evil forces to sort of seize power. And I want to know if there is any work being done in a proactive way. Is there something that we can do, or that the EFF can do to, for human rights or things like that?
The only proactive work I know, but is not in this field, is the Access to Knowledge movement that kind of decided to set the agenda for WIPO. In this field, I don't know. I think unfortunately we are just reacting to the bad things that come out of Brussels, and it's like you have to put out fires, and we are not that many, so when you try, that's what you spend your time on. But it's also the upside, or you could say, I would say, like, for example, IPRED 2, the Intellectual Property Enforcement Directive that introduces criminal sanctions at the European level. It has now kind of, we don't know exactly where it is in the process, but it has been slowed down, and it's not I don't think it has even left the European Parliament yet in a formal way, and it should, if the fast track that was planned for this directive would have been followed, it would have been passed in December already, 1 year ago, but it was delayed first by the rapporteur, and then further delayed, and now not even the result of the first reading in the European Parliament has been consolidated. And this is thanks to groups like BEUC, European Consumer Organization, and EBLIDA, Libraries Organization, a couple of individuals that tried to take the effort to read all this stuff, all the papers, and get to know a bit about the process and how amendments are made and how they are tabled and voted and things like that. So it's not impossible to stop. I would that the political system we have is still open for influence. So if we use it, we can still do things.
Hi. I was just wondering if you could make some short comments on the new Lisbon Treaty. Is there something in there that we should be watching out for?
You mean the reform treaty, right? I don't think I can. What I know, it's not that different from what was rejected by France and Netherlands, and I've been following some mailing lists where some people have talked about the possibility for national parliaments to have more influence, and this referendum principle that you have 1 million signatures or something. But it seems that they are not really well developed or really big structural changes that would make democracy, the tools or the system for making people more have influence over the political process is not that enhanced. I would say it seems that it becomes more difficult now. And it's very simple things like voting rules, for example. So in the European Parliament, in the second reading, I think the previous treaty said the Parliament only needed a single majority. And then it was changed to absolute majority, which means that it becomes really, really difficult to reject a directive. And voting balances like that is like making things difficult or hard. I think it's not opening up for a more participatory democracy. I don't think so.
Hello. I have a question about the agreement between the European Union and the USA about the exchangement of the passenger name records. These passenger name records that are exchanged are just about flights from people going to the USA and from the USA, right? These passenger name records that are exchanged between the European Union and the USA are only about the flights that are going to the US and from the US. Am I right about that? Because I think there's a little confusion in the press about if there are any passenger name records exchanged or only those to the US.
So there's difference between what the politicians think they can do with legislation. They say we only want to send this data to the United States. We want to use the push method, and we don't want to use this pull method. And that's just technically impossible, or really, really hard. You have to rebuild the whole system to have a push system. So the simple solution is just to give DHS root access to your partition in the CRS, and that means that you have Department of Homeland Security basically has real-time access and can look at any flight for any European from Helsinki to Paris or from Rome to Prague. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, so yeah. My passenger name record appears, I can be sure that my passenger name record appears in the US database even when I fly from Munich to Berlin or something. I can expect that.
I think you could expect that, yes. I mean, if you just look at you have to look at the technical, how does the system work? And we have so far very little understanding of how it really works. So how to understand it is to kind of get the data dumps and to decode or to reconstruct how they were made. So if you ask one airline for your PNR record, you will probably only get you will get what that airline knows, or what is in that partition. But the PNR record can be larger because other players can have been using the PNR record and they have access to it in another way. And I don't really know how that works. And within the travel industry, this is difficult to find out because it's internal education and trade secrets, whatever. So that's why I urge the tech community to debug and to look into these systems to see how they work. Because then we can have an informed discussion about what policy can do and not do, and the risks with institutionalizing or these passenger information units that will be some kind of departments. I don't know what they really can do and yeah.
Okay. A few minutes ago you said some comment that it might be cheaper to get rid of privacy at all. And I have a question, maybe more like an idea, that we need privacy just because there is the principle that every real human has only one identity. What if besides getting rid of privacy, if we also get rid of that principle and allow anybody to have as many identities as he can, then we don't need privacy anymore. What do you think about such solution?
So do you want me or myself to answer? No, I think it's really important to have fundamental discussions like that. I'm still fighting with understanding what the digital representation of my life really means to me, who I am here in the real world, and if I am in the whatever, on the other side of the screen. So indeed, there are deep philosophical problems that I don't think we have fully understood in such a way that we can express them in legislation in any simple way. And probably we are messing around with things when we do that we don't really understand yet. But I still think that the human rights principles, the charters we have are pretty stable, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. No, don't. Anyway, I think they are still principles you should base your designs on. And I think to be one person is at the core of that design. But I think to have the new ideas to talk about them is really important, but maybe not in the current political problem with the PNR proposal, because it's concretely a text that's it's doing things. It will be law if we don't change it or stop it.
Okay, I have a question. I requested my travel records from the Department of Homeland Security, and I got my records, and I couldn't help but notice that the records did include my travel from Berlin to Prague last year after this Congress. And, and I also noticed in the other people's records who requested records at the same time that the records also included land border crossings out of the US. And so my question is, do you believe that land border crossing information is also being exchanged or potentially being exchanged along with PNR records?
I guess so. I don't know. But I don't see currently any checks and balances in any of these systems, either on the private side or on the government side. I don't see strong political movement except for Christoph. For privacy protection, and that transforms into legislation, you only see bad things happening, bad proposals coming, and they are being passed. That's the trend. And I don't see any strong counter forces. So I guess it's safe to assume the worst things are happening.
I would also add that my records also included information about my race, which I understand to be illegal in the collection of records too.
Yeah, I don't know how exactly all the free text data fields you can enter. Maybe you can enter race there too. Well, this means the last question has 5 seconds to...
No, last question is gone.
Okay, thank you very much, and study and do what you can. Write an email to the person you voted on. That's also always a first start if you don't want to get organized. So, yeah, voll Dampf voraus, no.